A lot of times, the local people, they would think that our bowls were drums. So Indian drums, like tablas, they actually look quite a bit like that. And it's not just once or twice that people would say, "Hey, nice drums." In the library, even a Buddhist, very early on actually, there was a Buddhist who was familiar with Jack Kornfield and IMS, and he said to us, "Nice drums." I said, No, these are our bowls. We're trying to collect food, and we're going to the supermarket to beg outside. We have permission actually, and then he came back. He picked some vegetables for us, and he drove back, and he offered us so much vegetables that they filled our bowl. He didn't realize that we were not allowed to cook, but we ate what we could. It was really inspiring. Is it legal? So is it legal to walk in the streets to beg? Venerable Paul Oxida was very worried about that because he was told that it was illegal by the Abhayagiri monks already who are in California. And I think in Singapore, where he spends a lot of time, or used to spend a lot of time, it's also, I heard it's illegal. So I checked with a lawyer. He says that we're allowed to ring the doorbell if we want, but monks shouldn't really ring doorbells. And we can preach and sell things. Of course, we're not going to do that. It's not proper for monks. And standing on the property might make people a little angry. And it's best to avoid that. And we did. So we stayed on the road, on the edge of the property, except for the very, very last day we started to go on the property a little bit. Just because it was our last day and we really couldn't get in trouble. But we stayed on the road, and that's how we would practice loving kindness. And we avoided, where we were, we actually stayed in a place that was very wealthy, and the driveways were quite long. But we would walk to the village, it's about a mile, and we would stand on the edge of the road, and the houses were very close together and near to the road. So it worked out well. My vision was that I wanted the propagation to be natural, where I do my monk life and lay people can join in with what I'm doing if they want. So Pindapata, they can participate with that. Chanting, meditation, study, Dhamma discussion. I wanted to keep our outreach at a minimum and to have the support work with our lives, just like ITBMU, just like Pa'ok Meditation Center. So the monks who go there, they do what's supposed to be done by the monks. So we have the two different duties, the pariyatti duty and the meditation duty. And the community supports that. And that's how it works here, that's how it works at Pa'ok. And I wanted to have some type of hybrid where we go Pindapata, we get our food, and we live sort of what I would imagine how monks would live. And we believed that if we were sincere, that everything would work out. We had limited Kappiya access. This is my friend, Friedemann Bender. He lived in another house, and he was well connected, and he was the one who scrambled last minute to find us a place to live. 2 weeks before we were supposed to arrive, he told us the park was booked and we would be homeless, and he was trying to find a new place. He was very well connected, and he knew about the food banks. So this is actually the food bank in Hanalei. If any of you are familiar with American culture, there's a song called Puff the Magic Dragon, and they mention a town called Hanalei. And it's actually Hanalei, but they made it rhyme with the song. The food bank, in the Vinaya, we have some rules about meal tickets. And this was, again, another place where we interfaced with the local people. By getting our food, people would learn about us. And by learning about us, they are learning about Buddhism. And that's how I teach to my parents. Most of the time, they're only learning about the monk's life. But the monk's life should incorporate what Buddhism is all about. So a food bank is where the church gives food to the poor, and you actually get a ticket. You get a number beforehand, just make sure the time is okay. And Friedemann found us, there are three days per week. There's actually every day there's a food bank. And 3 days per week there's something in the area. But there was only 1 day per week where they gave out food in the morning. So we're not allowed to collect our own food and store it and then eat it the next day. So we only had Friday in Hanalei to get our food. We would get a number at maybe about 7:30, and at 7:45 they start calling the numbers, and you walk in a line and you're allowed to take tin food and bread and cereal from the line, from different piles. And they were very cooperative. Normally you take it yourself, but we needed people to put it in our bowls, and we would go pindapata with our bowls at the food bank. And they appreciated what we did. A lot of people in the food banks are very poor. Some people had mental problems. We could see very clearly. And there's a different type of clientele that's there. And there's some normal people there too who just want to just get free food that's going to go to waste. It's usually outdated food, damaged food from supermarkets that gets sold very cheap to these food bank organizations, and then they get a tax deduction. But they appreciated us, and here is a picture of a bag of cereal. What we would do is we would not take all the food that we were allowed to take. We would only take what we needed. And so when it came to take the cereal and the milk, we would divide a cereal box in half. And before we were collecting our food, I said, we hold up the line to only take a half a box of cereal. If you could have a bag ready, an empty bag ready for us, that would be good. And he brings me to a room and he holds up this bag. He says, "Is this what you want?" And so he had already prepared a bag of cereal for us because they knew our habit, and they were very helpful for us. And so the Kappiya arranged the bus, for us to go to the food bank, and he arranged 3 restaurants for us. Sukhothai, Common Ground, and Lotus Garden. This is a picture I grabbed off of the internet. This was one of the restaurants that we went to. And again, this was the Thai restaurants. They were already Buddhists, and they were very happy to help us. In this restaurant, they would open up early for us, 10 o'clock. And we would have several Thai people come, and it became like a pindapata sala. And because it was before the normal people would eat, we actually ate in the restaurant, but we preferred not to at the other restaurants. This is a restaurant actually a few houses down from where we lived, and it's called the Common Ground, and it's run by Westerners and not really Buddhist. They're not Buddhist. And the meals cost $45 per person. It's a very high-class restaurant. So the 2 monks would be about $90. And because Friedemann, my friend, he arranged this, he knows the owners, and this is an organic restaurant, and what we call an environmentally conscious, socially conscious restaurant. So feeding monks is within their realm. And the person down below, right here, his name is Ron, and he would feed us. Because we can't. It was a buffet, all you can eat, and all natural food. They would make their own bacon. They would make their own ham. They would grow some of their vegetables and fruit, and they would get other things locally. They would make their own bread, their own cheese. It's one of those restaurants. They had a guitar player, played songs and sang. And at a fancy restaurant, the chef actually will come and serve you himself. And because we're monks, we actually needed someone to serve us, and he's the chef. And it was very, very touching. The second week we came, he was telling us while he was serving our bowls, he said that he was telling his girlfriend about how happy it was and how amazing it was that he was helping the monks. And I said to him, "Oh, well, we're really happy that we're really happy that we made your day. And he says, no, you made my week. So for the whole week, he was just really happy about us. And again, this is another way that we propagated, and we definitely propagated to wrong. This is the Lotus Garden. This is the first Thai restaurant we went to on our first day, and they were very helpful for us. This lady is just someone on the internet. I just pulled this picture out on the internet. But this is somewhat of a food court restaurant, and we would grab our food and we would eat in the park, and I have a picture of that later. This is what the bus looks like. So we did not use money, and we took the bus, and again, on the bus, we would meet a lot of people who, we would see some people, and we would talk to people, and the bus driver, the culture is very friendly and very loving. Everybody says aloha to the bus driver and mahalo when they leave, and the bus driver says aloha and mahalo back. Aloha sort of means like namaste, something like that. It means hello, goodbye, and love. Namaste means I worship the light inside you. But it can take on somewhat of the same meaning as well. It's a very broad word. So we had a monthly pass, and it was $40 per person, and very quickly we had a donor for the bus passes. It's unlimited. You can go anywhere on the island, and I already said about aloha and mahalo. So our schedule was on Tuesday we would go to one of the restaurants called the Lotus Garden. Thursday we added a restaurant. Friday we had the food bank. Sunday we had the Common Ground restaurant. So 3 days per week we had restaurants in the beginning. And the first few days, the Kappiya lost his job his first week, and then he got it back. But he was off conveniently for the first week for us, and maybe the devas were doing their work. And we went to the Thai restaurant, and then we went to a food bank in the afternoon, and he collected the food for us. We just stood in line. And we understood how the food bank worked, and then we went Pindapata for the first few days, and we would go in the village where my Kappiya lived, and he would also give us food during that time. And within a few days also we had one lady, she came out of her house, and she had some apples, I think it was, and maybe some oranges. And she said, we appreciate what you're doing, and our neighbors appreciate what you're doing. And she gave us some food. And she became one of our dayakas, one of our dagamajis, and she was very faithfully giving, and her name is Faith, actually. And we met a person named Melinda and Michaela. So we're walking on the road, and this is where we interface with people. And we're walking on the road, we're ready to go back to our place, and we actually don't have a lot of food. It's in the beginning, and people don't know that we eat a lot of food, especially if we're eating one meal. And we're heading back, and these two ladies, they saw us, they stopped the car, and they said, can we give you a ride? And we said, well, this is our road, and we're going, it's less than a mile, we can do it, thank you. And then they put their hands together and they said, can we give you a ride? So we didn't know anyone at that stage, and we decided to take the ride. And so we drove to the place, and we didn't have enough food, and we had collected food at the food bank the previous afternoon, maybe 2 afternoons, 2 days earlier. And the box of food was in a plastic box, and the building had a plastic see-through roof. And the sun had shined inside that building and into the box. And we asked them to offer us some food from that box. And when they opened up the box to get us some bread, the bread was a little bit green, had some spotty green, had some mold, had some moldy spots on it. And they showed us the bread, and they said, this is not very safe for you to eat. Can you, please don't take this. But this was all we had, and I said, well, you can break off the parts that are no good, and we'll eat that. And so then they started to realize that we didn't really have any any proper arrangement for food. As a matter of fact, if we might not have been able to get the moldy bread if they weren't there. And so that lady, Melinda, she says, I want to offer you food for the rest of the time you're there. And she didn't know that we're going to stay for a long time. And I said, are you sure? Because we're going to be here for a very, very long time. And she says, I will serve you food, I will give you food until I leave the island, which is in September, mid-September. So it was about 3 months that she offered food. So within 3 days, our Pindapata was completely covered. And I told her about our restaurant days, our food bank days. And so she was going to come 4 days a week. And she says, when can I come here? So she knew, she was at our place, she knew where it was. And I said, don't come here to bring us any food, because we have a mission to do Pindapata. If you want to give us food, please find us on the road. So this is not Melinda, but this is another person we met. And this is almost the same thing, nearly the same type of car that Melinda had. She would have the pots and pans in the back of her car. She'd stop the car, and we would go and with our bowls, and she would feed us, and then we'd give a small blessing, and then she'd drive away. I called them Driveby Donors. It's actually a play with words. Normally, actually, it's associated with shooters, with people with guns. But they would give us food and then drive away. In some cases, we would get a ride back home. In many cases, near the end. So we met Melinda, and she was giving us food on a regular basis. And then we were still going every day Pindapata, and she was meeting us on the road. And we found another person named Nook, and she stopped the car. She found us. She was going to work, and she saw us, and she freaked out. She's like, I've never seen monks on this island before. It's a very small, unknown island. And she came out, and she was holding money in both hands, and it was fanned out, to show us how much money we were getting. And she was like this. It was really funny. And we refused the money, and she was speaking Thai to us. She was speaking Thai language to us, maybe because of Venerable Devananda's tan-colored robes. It's usually the same color as Thai. But I really think it was because her mind went back 20 years when she was living in Thailand. I felt that her mind immediately went back 20 years. And she was speaking just Thai, expecting both of us to know the language like her monks would back home. And I stopped her and I said, do you speak English? And she switched just like that, and she says, yeah, of course. And and she started speaking to us, and then she ended up going to a store which was right across the street, and she ended up donating food for us, and she became one of our most important donors later on. She came every day, and she introduced us to the Thai community, and there was actually a large Thai community. Nandini is one of our third. There's actually a few others, donors who came. We had another one named Anna, who became quite a regular later on. Nandini is a Sri Lankan lady, and she came to one of our first Dhamma talks. And so in the beginning, I had opened up with the propagation, showing you the Dhamma talks. They were arranged by Melinda. Melinda wanted to arrange a Dhamma talk on the full moon of July, which is the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So it was the first time that Dhamma was really, Theravada Dhamma was going to be on the island. And she came. She found out about it somehow. And she brought us food to the house. And we allowed it one time, and then we told her again that if she wants to bring food again, that really she should bring it on the road. And she resisted a lot. But in the end, all the donors, they really, really enjoyed finding us on the road. And sometimes we might get food from other people too, from the houses. And they knew it was unstable, and there was uncertainty to that. And we didn't know, maybe one of the drivers who would come on a certain day, we never knew if they would really come. And that uncertainty is really good for the monk's life. And they all liked it. And I think a lot of them just said, this is like they felt this was the old way of doing Buddhism. And they knew it was a very good propagation tool. This was our schedule. And you can see there's a red, can I use the mouse? Yeah. So there's a red route, and this is the Wednesday, Thursday road. And this is the Saturday and Sunday road. And Paul, the person with the tattoos, lived here. Faith, who was our first donor, lived maybe about here. And we had a regular donor on Monday, and Tuesday, I think it was here. And we had many donors. We had several donors here. We had a new donor maybe about here, and her brother, which was, who invited us, I think he was maybe over here. So we had quite a few donors, and many random donors. The problem is in America, it's like the rich houses in this neighborhood over here. They're in their house, and they're cooped up in their house, and they don't really see the monks. And if they do see the monks, it's only a small percentage that are actually willing to feed us. While we were on Pindapata, we met the Myanmar people who live on the island. These are Myanmar refugees, and we met them. They stopped the car and they bowed down to us, and we thought they were Thai, and they actually ended up being Myanmar. And the first words we said were "Mingalaba," and so it was really fun to meet them. Nearly finished. We were offered 2 kutis by the owners where we lived. We lived on a beautiful estate. It was almost sort of like a cottage or a campground type setting. It's really beautiful. There's pictures in the video that I'm going to show, and it's going to get shown very quickly. So I scheduled an hour and 10 minutes for the whole thing, and we're pretty much on time. So we were renting the place. Friedemann had to rent a place for us. It was $900 per month. And it was a very beautiful place, but it was small. It was about 500 square feet for 2 months. And $900 per month for what we were getting in the area, it actually was below market. It was a good deal. And we would chant every day there, and twice a day, and we would do our meditation there. And the people who owned that place, it was a sanctuary. It was a religious sanctuary. It was it was managed by Christian, devoted Christian people who are very pure Christians, not like other Christians. And they're very sincere people and very loving people. And they even have a Bodhi tree on their property. And one of them was a Hare Krishna for 30 years. So they're very familiar with the Eastern culture, even though they're devoted Christians. And after some time, they realized that we were lifting up the energy in their property, and they offered to build us 2 kutis. And they needed that place for rent, and that's why as their income, and that's why they were charging us. But they wanted to build some kutis for us. They asked us if we could help with, banging some nails, and it seemed like they were going to pay for it. I wasn't really sure, but we had a Thai community that could help anyways. But I got a little nervous. We have some pretty serious rules about building buildings, and about following the laws and not breaking the laws and causing fines and whatever. And one thing led to another, and I found out that the place was not really so legal. And I felt like we had to move, and so we moved. We moved to that Thai lady's property, and she got us a camper to stay in an RV. This is one of the Dhamma Talk posters that we had. One of my friends who made this, who designed this, he was actually a monk at Pa'ok, and I called it Old School Buddhism. So Theravada means school of the elder. School of the Elders, and old school is sort of it's somewhat of a saying in America to mean doing things the old way, and so I thought it was an interesting way to introduce ourselves. So we had one offer of 2 kutis. Within a month we had an offer of two kutis, but unfortunately we couldn't take it. It turned into a giant mess. But then we had another offer to have a monastery on Nook's property, and this place was already zoned actually for an exercise room, so it was actually legal with the Zoning and Planning Commission. And so you can't buy some land and just put a bunch of buildings on it. It's against the law, and they can make you tear it down, and that's why we left. But we felt that this was not sufficient for long-term sustainability. Maybe we were too picky, especially now that we're here. And so we decided against it. About half of it was going to be given to us, which is 20 by 20. So we could have quite a good amount of square footage for kutis. And then this is the last offer that we have. I don't have a title here. Less than a week before we left, there was a scramble to try to keep us on the island. And you cannot see, but this lady right here, her name is Kong, and this is her daughter here, and her husband died. And Nook begged, our Dagamaji, she went to her and begged her to help, to try to keep us. And this meeting, we did our last house dana, and we kept house danas to a minimum. But this was a regular supporter of ours, and we wanted to show our appreciation. And during this meeting, we were offered a sort of a tentative plan to get a monastery where that lady would buy 5 acres of land, and 1 acre would be allocated for the monks. And we're not really certain if that's going to happen. And they were going to rent a house for us, a proper house for us, but it was going to cost $1,500 per month, and we felt it was too much. It'd be about $20,000 a year, at least in costs. So this property monastery deal would take a year to develop, and so we felt it was too long. And this is the end of the presentation. I'm going to show a short video, a 10-minute just slideshow, so you can see the house, you can see some things that we did. And but this was our last Dhamma talk, and like I said before, this was really successful. We met all these people through our Pindapata and through knowing people. And these 2 people were tourists, and the rest of the people, these are the Myanmar people, and these are all the Thai community, and here is Nandini and her husband. So let me just get the video going. It's nice with the chanting music. You can't really hear it, so I don't know. Is it going through the speaker? No, you can't see it. So anyways, this is the airport. We didn't have a Kappiya, and we stayed 12 hours in the airport, both directions. It was a very cheap ticket in China with no Kappiya, no money. And we had someone bring us out to breakfast the first day. And this is Kauai, where we are right now. So, thank you all for coming tonight, this afternoon, and I'm very happy to share about many things that we did. There's some other stories, but there's just not enough time. There was a radio interview that you can access if you want. It's Subhuti. If you go to the website subhuti.withmetta.net, subhuti.withmetta.net, you can see a link to the radio interview we did. And so again, thank you for coming. It's a joy to share many things. I hope I didn't show it, but during the beginning and a lot of the times when I was speaking, I was getting a little choked up, because it was just a really good opportunity for us. And I'm going to do it again, so I better stop. So thank you. Just a little end note to the talk. At the very end, I had trouble speaking. What I wanted to say was we had many opportunities to propagate or to teach. During our Pindapata, we just interacted with so many people, even the people we never spoke to, and those people who just waved to us on the streets, or people who didn't wave to us and who maybe later at one time they can remember who we were. So we had many opportunities to interact with people, and also directly interacting with people.